I truly believed the whole mess would die down by Monday, but apparently, everyone at TechFlow has photographic memories when it comes to petty office scandals. The way people were reacting, you'd think I'd committed some felony, instead of simply speaking up for myself at a dumb company happy hour. But I'm jumping ahead here. It all began because I was actually trying to be social for once. Normally, I ditch those gatherings because they're nothing but stilted chatter and fake smiles, but my manager, Rachel, had been dropping these thinly veiled digs about team bonding and engagement. So when she said we were all headed to Ali's after work on Friday, I decided to show up, grab one drink, and slip out early. Ali's is this dingy bar downtown that reeks of old beer and lost hope. The kind of spot where the floors cling to your shoes, and you're never sure if it's from spilled cocktails or decades of built-up grime, but it's cheap and close to the office, so that's where all the tech startups gather to pretend they're still edgy and scrappy. I wound up next to Marcus, the junior developer who usually steers clear of me. I don't blame him. I can be intense, driven about my work. I say what I think, and apparently that unsettles people. Marcus is one of those quiet coder types who probably still lives at home and counts energy drinks as daily nutrition. But he had helped me untangle a nightmare ticket a few weeks back, so I figured we could maybe talk like normal coworkers. And to my surprise, it was going well. I kept my voice down instead of blasting like usual, and we were connecting over how utterly clueless our bosses are. He teased me about my Guinness looking like an old man's drink, which was actually funny. I shot back about his dreadful karaoke at the last office party. He laughed, and I started thinking maybe I'd misread him. Maybe he wasn't as dull as I assumed. We ordered another round with nachos that looked like they'd been under a heat lamp since the Clinton era. But whatever, the booze made it all seem fine. We swapped embarrassing childhood stories, and I confessed to wearing fingerless gloves everywhere for a year because I thought they made me look cool. He admitted to getting married in some online game called RuneScape, which was both hilarious and oddly endearing. I was starting to think Marcus might actually be kind of cute in that geeky safe way. Like maybe there was potential there. I'd been single for months and was exhausted, with dating apps full of guys who crumbled at strong women. Marcus seemed different, more reserved, maybe easier to handle. The place was filling up, packed shoulder to shoulder with Friday workers desperate to drown their boring jobs. Everyone was jostling around, and the bartenders were drowning in orders. That's when some guy lugging an armful of beers staggered past, clearly already wasted. I was reaching for my vodka cranberry when he barreled right into me. His elbow clipped my wrist just right, sending my drink flying like a red comet. It splattered across the floor, soaked my white blouse, and left me sitting there empty-handed while he just kept walking like nothing happened. I was stunned. The nerve. No pause, no glance. Just bulldozing forward like he owned the place. So I shouted after him, loud enough to cut through the music. Hey, going to apologize or what? Half the crowd turned, Marcus included, looking like he wanted to vanish into his chair. The guy stopped, turned back with this blank look, like he couldn't process my words. What? He said, blinking at me like I was speaking another language. You just spilled my drink, I said, pointing at the mess on the floor and my ruined shirt. Not complicated. Basic manners say when you wreck someone's drink, you say sorry and offer to replace it. But instead, he just waved me off and started turning away like I wasn't worth his time. Like I was some annoying fly to be brushed aside. That's when I snapped. I shoved off my stool and grabbed his shoulder with both hands. Not hard, just enough to stop him. He stumbled but saved most of his beers. Then muttered something under his breath. That made my blood boil. Jesus, crazy. He said it low, probably thought the noise would drown it out, but I've got sharp ears. And that word, crazy, that's my button. I've been labeled crazy my whole life for standing up for myself, for having opinions, for refusing to shrink. It's what weak men say when they can't handle strong women. Something in me cracked. Before I knew it, I drew back and slammed a punch at his smug face. I've been in kickboxing for 2 years, sparring guys twice my size, so I know how to throw a clean jab. I nailed him on the cheekbone, a sharp smack that echoed. The place went dead. People gasped, voices froze, and suddenly the crowded bar had this tense bubble of silence around us. The guy staggered, more shocked than hurt, and carefully set 2 beers down. Then he put a hand on my shoulder, not a punch, just a firm push to put distance between us. It was controlled, almost calm, but I was off balance from the jab, and the floor was slick with spilled drinks. My knees gave out, and I hit the ground hard. I'll admit I might have leaned into it a bit. If you're already falling, why not make the performance count? I let myself crash to the floor like a soccer player, milking a foul, and made sure the tears came instantly, mascara streaking, the whole dramatic package. He attacked me. I cried loud enough for the entire bar to hear. The reaction was immediate, almost satisfying. The bartender froze mid-pour, and a hulking bouncer with a shaved head strode over like this was routine for him. The guy I'd hit threw his hands up as if he were under arrest, panic written all over. She hit me first, man, he stammered. Technically true, but missing the bigger picture. I scanned the room for backup, for someone to side with me, and landed on Marcus. Poor Marcus, who minutes earlier had been building up to invite me out for ice cream after karaoke. He looked at me with an expression I couldn't place. When I pleaded with my eyes, he did something that floored me. He nodded, slow, careful, like he was defusing a bomb. But he was nodding at the other guy, agreeing with him. It hit me like a slap. Marcus, who I thought had finally started to understand me, who I'd been flirting with all night, was taking some stranger's side. The betrayal was so sharp, I almost forgot to keep sobbing. The bouncer stepped in with that tired authority that comes from breaking up countless bar fights. All right, everyone out. Move it. Outside in the chilly night air, I tried to spin it back in my favor. Marcus walked me to the curb, probably out of duty more than care, while I kept wailing about being shoved. But when I searched his face for comfort, for validation, all I got was blunt truth. To be fair, Katie, you hit him first. The calm, even way he said it was worse than yelling. I stared, waiting for him to take it back, to remember he was supposed to be in my corner. But he just looked uneasy, maybe even disappointed. So you're siding with him, I said, not a question. His silence said enough. I spun on my heels and stormed off my steps, snapping against the pavement, leaving him looking like a lost puppy on the curb. The weekend was agony. I kept checking my phone, scrolling endlessly, waiting for a ping from anyone asking if I was okay. Nothing. Silence from everyone, Marcus included. I replayed the whole scene on loop, each time working myself into more rage. How dare that guy disrespect me? How dare Marcus fail to defend me? By Monday I was ready for whispers and sideways glances. What I wasn't ready for was Rachel calling me in the second I arrived. She had that tight jaw, the one she gets when she's fighting to stay calm, and I knew someone had told her everything. "Katie, we need to go over what happened Friday night," she said, motioning me to sit. I tried to act clueless, but it was obvious she'd heard the full story from multiple people. For 40 minutes she lectured me on company, reputation, liability, and proper conduct. I sat there stewing, convinced I was being punished for defending myself while that drunk idiot faced no consequences. In the end, I walked out with just a warning. Basically, we don't want lawsuits, but don't let it happen again. Still, Rachel's tone made it clear I was hanging by a thread. One slip and I'd be polishing my resume. Back at my desk, I could feel eyes burning into me. Marcus and his coder friends were clustered at the coffee station, whispering like teenagers. I caught bits as I passed. If one of us had swung at happy hour, we'd already be unemployed. She's only still here because it wasn't another staffer. Man, she's lucky that guy didn't call the cops. The unfairness scorched me. I was the one who'd been wronged, yet somehow I was the villain, expected to just sit there and take it while a drunk stranger walked free. But something shifted in me that day. Not humility exactly, I still knew I was right, but I realized my tactics needed a reset. So I adapted. Strategically. I quit the kickboxing gym. It was expensive anyway. I stopped posting workout selfies that weren't getting traction. I stopped joking about being able to take down any guy in the office, not because it wasn't true, but because people couldn't stomach confidence from a woman. I started asking for help more, leaning into the just a girl figuring it out angle that seemed to put people at ease. Brought in cookies, muffins, sugar goes a long way in softening edges. I laughed louder at other people's jokes, kept my voice gentler. In meetings. Slowly it worked. 3 months later, people eased up. The stares faded, the whispers died. Even Marcus made small talk again, though he never mentioned ice cream or anything else. Still, the bitterness stayed. Because I'd learned the hard truth. When women stand up for themselves at work, they pay a price men never do. That guy who ruined my drink, he probably never thought about that night again. Meanwhile, I had to reinvent myself completely just to keep my paycheck. The hardest part was how everyone acted. Like I should be thankful for the lesson. Like being knocked down in some grimy bar and shamed in front of my co-workers was a gift in disguise, like I needed to be reminded of my place for my own good. Marcus still sits 2 desks away from me, still gives those polite nods in the hallway, still steps in to untangle code when I phrase the request softly enough. But sometimes I catch him watching me with this look I hate, like he can see straight through the tray of brownies and the cheerful girl act. Like he knows exactly who I am beneath all of it. And maybe that's the most infuriating part. Not that I had to reshape myself, but that everyone seems more comfortable with the watered-down version. The smaller, quieter Katie who passes out, snacks and asks for guidance and only raises her voice when it's to chuckle at someone else's bad joke. I replay that night sometimes, wonder how it would have turned out if even one person had stood with me. If Marcus had spoken up, said, "Hey, she's right," instead of siding with the stranger. If the bouncer had stopped to hear my side. If Rachel had shown the slightest concern for my safety instead of worrying about lawsuits. But that's not the world we live in. We live in a place where women get punished for pushing back, where Asserting yourself makes you difficult or unstable or toxic, and where smiling, baking, and pretending helplessness is what earns approval. So that's what I do. I smile and bake and pretend I can't handle tasks I could easily finish blindfolded. I let Marcus teach me concepts I've already mastered. I laugh at his flat punchlines, morphed into everything I once despised, all because one drunk couldn't be bothered to say sorry for spilling a drink. The sickest part is that everyone frames this as progress. Rachel praises me for maturing, for finding my place. My co-workers relax around me, invite me back into after-hours chatter. Even my mom, after hearing a carefully edited version, told me she was proud I'd learned to let things go. But they're wrong. This isn't progress. This isn't maturity or teamwork. This is survival. This is what happens when a woman with a spine gets sanded down by a system that can't stomach her real self. This is me in witness protection, hiding under an alias because the truth is too dangerous for everyone else. And the worst part is that I'm good at it. So good. I've perfected the act everyone loves, the sweet, pliant, slightly needy Katie who seeks guidance, passes out cookies, and never makes waves. It's method acting without an intermission, and the audience never realizes it's a performance. Sometimes I wonder how life would look if I'd just let that guy slink away. If I'd sat there drenched and humiliated and swallowed my anger like a good girl. Maybe Marcus would have bought me a drink, and we'd have had that ice cream after karaoke. Maybe I'd still post gym photos and speak up in meetings without scanning faces for disapproval. But then I replay the look on his face when he called me crazy, the flick of his wrist, the way he turned away like I was invisible. No, I couldn't have stayed quiet. Some things demand a fight. Even if you fight alone, even if you lose, even if the fallout costs more than you imagined. The problem is no one else sees it that way. They see a woman who lost control, who blew up a minor accident into a public scene, who humiliated herself and her company. They see someone who needed a lesson about consequences and how to behave. What they don't see is a woman who refused to vanish, who insisted on respect, who stood up to someone who treated her like nothing. They don't see the courage it took to swing, even if it was reckless. They don't see the grit it takes to keep walking into that office every morning, knowing the whispers are still there. But I see it. I know the truth of that night. And I know that despite the mess, despite the compromises and the shrinking down, I was right to demand more. I was right to refuse invisibility. And one day, maybe, I'll find a way to be that woman again without losing everything. One day, I'll work somewhere that values truth over compliance. Somewhere that doesn't punish women for daring to take up space. Until then, I'll keep smiling, baking, and laughing at weak jokes. I'll keep playing the role because that's the toll for entry into a world never built for women like me. But I won't forget the woman underneath. And I won't stop believing I deserved better that night at Ali's, even if I'm the only one who knows.